Good evening. It's 6 p.m. I will call the July 15th, 2020 regular board meeting of the Windham Southeast School District to order at 6 p.m. I have a couple more people to admit, and I wanted to go over some of the procedures for Zoom for people that are new, if they are not familiar with it. There are several features in the program. If you wish to be recognized and called on to speak, if you go to the bottom of your screen and click on participants, you'll get a column on the right, and at the bottom there's a raise hand. And please raise your hand, and a little blue flag will show up on the side of my screen, and I'll know that you want to speak. Typically, we hear from board members first. If it's an issue that we're going to take action on, then we, after hearing from board administrators, we open it to the public. If it just reports, we don't typically do that. At the end of the agenda, there's a period, an item for public comment on non-agenda items. Otherwise, anyone that wants to comment on an agenda item is welcome to. I keep looking away because people keep coming in and want to be admitted. So that's the first thing, if you want to be recognized on Zoom. The next thing is that the chat is not in the record. So if you put anything in the chat, if somebody else happens to look at it, that's fine. Most of the board members, some do monitor it. I can't possibly monitor it and manage the meeting as well. And it won't be in the public record. So it's best to not bother with the chat. And the second thing is, the last thing is, I'd ask you to mute and unmute yourself. When I call on you, I can unmute you, and I typically will do that, but then ask you if you please stay muted if you're not participating. Let's see, so on the agenda, we do have to make one little switch. Because we had a series of communications that also referred to information that will be in administrative reports, we're going to switch committee reports up ahead of communications, and then we'll do communications and administrative reports together. So for all the people who just came in, I'm sorry you missed that, but you'll have to bear with us. I don't believe we have any official visitors that were invited or are going to address the board. Andy, did anybody contact you? Is anyone that you would planned on hearing from?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will jump right in. So the first item is the clerk's report this week. It's only the approval of minutes that's required. So I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes of July 1st, 2020.
So moved.
Thank you, Thomas.
Liz, second.
Is that Ann?
Liz.
Liz, thank you. Moved by Thomas, seconded by Liz, to approve the minutes of July 1st, 2020. Any discussion? Hearing none, all members, board members, please unmute and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you. The minutes are approved. So next are committee reports. We'll start in the regular order with the Finance Committee. Sean, did you folks, I think you're still waiting to reform?
Yes, we're still waiting to form. You know, maybe we can do it at the beginning of next month, but it might be conflict with the retreat, so I'll have to wait and see what happens. But I did email Frank to that effect, and we haven't been able to get back together yet. So thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you. Personnel Committee. I guess you don't have to mute, Sean.
So the last time we met was on June 23rd. I sent a message to Andy because usually Lyle would send me a message and say we need to meet on this or whatnot. And so I haven't gotten any sort of notification on that. So I'm just checked in with Andy and I'm just waiting for a response, but I haven't heard anything that we need to meet on so far.
I did get your email, Kelly. I'm trying to get back to it.
No.
It's-
No, that's understandable. I assumed that if there was something that was necessary, then I would have heard something, but it was just a sort of a double check-in. So we haven't met since the
No, absolutely.
23rd of June.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. Policy and Amendment Committee, Ann, you have a
Sure.
report?
Yep. Dave probably took notes, but Policy and Amendment met last Tuesday. We are discussing the sexual assault and harassment policy, flag policy, and are beginning discussions about a retirement compensation policy for SU and administrative employees, and discussing the possibility of a social media policy.
Oh my.
The possibility.
That's quite a load.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ann. The Programmatic and Performance Equity Committee, we just had a communication today. I'll let Emily explain that.
Yep, so we had a meeting last Wednesday, and the intention was to present out some recommendations around gender equity in sports, which was a report that the administration had given to the PPC committee to review, and then we were going to propose some things to the board. At this point, I think we're not ready. We had some lingering questions that we sent off to administration and some data requests, so we're going to review them at our next, our next meeting's in August, so we'll probably review them and chat a little bit via email, and then maybe have some recommendations or the whole full scale recommendations set to come to the board instead in August. Additionally, we did talk a little bit about the after school programming, specifically with WSESU, and given that a lot of after school programming, we're not sure what the status will be in September. We understand there may be need, but we don't know even if, what the schooling model will look like. It made sense to postpone the conversation, alert administration that we would be seeking kind of their input, or like a collaborative session in October where we would reinvigorate this conversation and then figure out what the real needs are at each school for really pinpointing or talking a little bit about after school programming in general, but really talking about after school care and the need that's beyond necessarily 3 or 4 p.m. So that I know Andy had or is sending out some information to the administration just to keep that in mind and to start thinking about it as the fall progresses through. So that's the update from the committee.
Thank you, Emily. Climate Crisis Task Force, Thomas?
Yeah, we'll be meeting on Tuesday. We haven't met since the last meeting.
Great, thank you. Communications Council, we did not make any progress or form up. We will talk about that. I'm not sure today, but I think that's going to be something we're going to have to take up on at our retreat in a couple of weeks to figure out how we're going to function. There's a lot of communications, and knowing what to say and who to say it and who to, how to share it and how to use the systems that are already in place seems to be the next step. Let's see. Michelle, did you have anything to add along that? And I noticed that Robin's here too. You both had volunteered to participate. So if you have any comments about that work, feel free.
Yeah, no, I think we just keep getting a lot of feedback from our families about how important our communication with them is. What's from the board, what's from, Andy and the administrators is sort of what needs to be figured out. Andy's meetings are getting with the school at each school site. The parent meetings are being really well received. People are really happy to have this opportunity. I've heard some feedback about having a really, if we had like a simplified facts page so that some of the same redundant questions don't keep being asked and people can work out their questions a little bit better, that would be helpful, whether it's what we know, like kids will be wearing masks, to what we don't know, can they wear, the shields. But I think only the high school, people are wondering if there's going to be a meeting for the high school because that one hasn't been scheduled that I'm aware of. But besides that, this has been a great way to reach out to the community, is to set up these meetings.
Great. Thank you. I know a lot of people aren't aware of that if they don't have kids in the schools. So it's good to get that out. Thanks, Michelle. The Diversity Equity Committee, I don't believe met.
Nope, we'll be meeting on the 27th, Monday.
Right. Thank you. And the SU board did meet, and I see that Carrie is here. Would you like to give us an update, Carrie?
Sure, thanks.
Busy meeting.
It was a busy meeting, but we got a lot done. Some procedural things, just regular warrants and payroll and minutes. We dealt with the audit bid and approved that. We got a great presentation from Paul and Deb on their sort of job positions as curriculum and assessment coordinators. We approved the social justice and anti-racism commitment as the SU board. And I believe we made sure that Andy has a mentor for the next year. So a lot got done.
Great. Thanks, Carrie.
Sure.
And last of the committee reports is leadership councils. Any of the leadership councils meet this week?
Things to Thursday, instead of at 6 p.m., it's 8:30 in the morning. I was late to that announcement, so I made the last 10 minutes of the meeting. So Julianne will have to update what was discussed. But from here on out, 8:30 in the morning every other Thursday. So next July 23rd would be the next date of the next leadership meeting, and hopefully she can share more.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, so we met, update on the buildings. We talked about the guidelines that were released from the AOE and the Vermont Department of Health. We are really planning our outdoor learning environment design process and just how we're phasing that in. One of our Dummerston Leadership Council members, Lance Nieper, has been working on creating a pretty elaborate, significant trail in our wooded area, bike trail, walking trail. So we've been focused on kind of outdoor learning opportunities. Yeah, that's a very, very brief synopsis.
Great. Thank you. Kelly?
So the BUHS Leadership Council met on Monday, and a good portion of the time we talked about the surveys that had been sent out to parents, teachers, and students. And I believe those were sent out to a larger board. And so we talked about maybe forming like a PTA type organization for parents to share information, that sort of thing. It sounds similar to what Michelle was talking about for a like a fact page, but we were sort of talking about maybe like a group. I'm not sure whether it was going to be all online or like Zoom or what format that would be, but it was just an idea of, I guess, ways for people to be able to get together and communicate their questions and maybe share some information that they had. We also talked about maybe having a contract for remote learning to hopefully make that a little bit more, I guess, helpful to the students and consistent. So on our next agenda, we're going to talk about outreach, diversity on the council itself, and also how to create those specific support groups for the fall. And if Steve, he may have some additional things.
For parents and students to come together and to hammer out details.
Steve, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a gremlin coming through the wall of your office just above your shoulder. You better get out of there.
I saw that. Yeah, that's my little friend.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Kelly. Jackie?
When you said gremlin, I completely assumed you were talking about me. Hi. So Green Street met, and it was a great meeting. It was pretty robust, so I'm going to go through wonderful notes that Bryn took sort of quickly because it's a lot. We reflected on the budget vote results and how happy we were. We talked about the PTO. The Green Street PTO has really spent a lot of time keeping the school culture alive. And then there was a parade for the 6th graders with a surprise from the PTO. They showed up in the parking lot to thank the teachers as well before the teachers went to thank the kids, and it was just a really fun event. We're going to continue doing our meetings Mondays at 6. David and Liz came to help talk about how we need to actively recruit people of color to the Leadership Council and PTO and things of that nature. And we also talked about the document that we recently passed. There was discussion of planning for 2021 school year, but basically the planning at this point is broad strokes and, waiting for more specific.
You're doing great. You're doing wonderful.
Thank you. And we talked a lot about Andy wanting to have this opportunity to engage with each school, which we all know is happening very soon. It's pretty exciting to everybody. And what else? Hang on. Can you come back here, please? Okay. And we talked about some ideas, for recruiting people of color to the Leadership Council and PTO. As I had said, I joined the PTO early in the year and thought that I could easily solve this by just asking people, and some of them just said no, and some didn't respond at all. So we just talked about different strategy, how we made that about covers it. I'm going to mute now. Thanks.
Thank you, Jackie. The one of the things you mentioned the recruitment, and it struck me during that meeting after the meeting that we may need to clarify the difference between PTO and Leadership Council because they are very different functions. So, but that's for another conversation. Oh, that's it for Jackie. That's it for Jackie. Okay, Sean?
Yeah, the Guilford Leadership Council met on July 10th, last Friday, and there were 12 individuals in attendance. So we started off with the school board report, which included the information about the vote. And once again, as Jackie said, that was well received, and everybody already knew about it, but it was good to talk about it. And then the superintendent, Andy, was there, and he gave a really comprehensive overview on reopening, speaking about reopening action teams and all kinds of energy and protocols have been put into place. And then John jumped right in after that, John Gagnon, principal, and gave a pretty comprehensive interview or the whole idea of what's going to happen when school opens. And John also had some pretty exciting news, and that Guilford is planning on creating some outdoor spaces. One will be near the gym down in the woods. That'll be a covered roof, and it's going to be largely built with volunteer labor. And so that was really pretty neat idea. So there was a lot of input by numerous people, and I think we're going to meet again on Friday, but I'm not sure the exact date, but it's always on the agenda under Leadership Council, as is our minutes that were posted by Amy. And she did an excellent job capturing the whole flavor of the meeting. So.
Thank you, Sean. Tim?
Oak Grove met on July 7th. We had a very good meeting, very well attended by about over 20 parents. We talked mainly about the continuous improvement plan, and that plan includes 3 separate broad goals. Number 1, supporting the academic needs of low SAS students. 2, increasing parent-family engagement. And 3, increasing student engagement during class time. So Mary is going to revise the plan to reflect the specific focus on goal number 3, increasing student engagement during class, with explicit focus on promoting Oak Grove's social emotional guiding principles. We also talked about reopening and and the diversity and equity plan. We talked about how we might go about addressing the plan in the next 90 days. So it was a good meeting, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Tim. Liz?
First of all, there was something in the chat that people can't get in, that there's a limit of 100 people for this meeting. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, David.
Thank you. I didn't know that that was the case. What I'm seeing on my screen right now is 99, so we're close, but I think I don't believe that there was any, Andy and Frank or someone else may have a better understanding. I don't believe there's any guidance from the Secretary of State about what to do if that happens. Any public meeting has to be able to have anybody that wants to participate, and if the room's too small, you have to pause the meeting. You have to table or stop acting and move to another site, or reconvene at another time. I don't think that. Again, I haven't heard any guidance on this, but well, what I'm going to suggest, what I'm going to do is continue the meeting. It's being recorded. If we find that we are out of compliance with open meeting law later on, any actions that we have taken, we will have to reconvene at another time and re-vote. We did get the clerk's report approved, and I don't think there's one other action item that we have, and nothing else. So we'll wait and see what happens. If it turns out that we can't do this, that we're out of compliance, then we'll just have to redo any decisions. But the information that we have, and people participating, unfortunately, can't happen, but they can certainly do that by email and come to the next meeting and share it.
Okay, I also noticed in the chat that you have to buy a different program for over 100.
Yeah,
so
well, Liz, we're not going to do that.
I just wanted to let you know that. I know.
Thank you.
Putney Leadership Council met, and I believe Ruby's here. Ruby?
Yes, she is.
This is Ruby from Putney. I'd be happy to speak very briefly. We did send a written report just today, so it will be in the inboxes of the school board. Essentially, as with all the leadership councils, we talked about the opening of schools. We received an update from HERV, and I think that our leadership council is poised to help in whatever way we can be helpful once decisions are made moving forward. Putney has not had a meeting with Andy, and it hasn't been announced yet, but I'm anticipating it will be hopefully shortly. We discussed in having a racial justice discussion group that would be a parent-led discussion group that would kind of run parallel to what's happening in our staff, using some of the same books. We haven't announced that, but that's our intention. And then just we had some discussion, a little bit of discussion about mission statement, a little bit of discussion about when and how are we deciding who's on the leadership council for the next year, and also recruitment and involvement of the voices of people of color and minorities at our school. So, but that was just it was a robust meeting, and it was very well attended, and that's all I got.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ruby. Deb, did you had your hand up previously? You'll have to unmute.
I actually, yeah, so sorry. I am going to go out on a limb and offer up a suggestion for potentially reopening the meeting. I know there are some people that have paid subscriptions, and if somebody left this meeting, opened a new Zoom under their subscription, we could post the invitation into the chat box, which could happen fairly fluidly. Just putting that up for a solution if we have that many people that can't get in.
I also put a suggestion in a possibility in the chat. I could start a regular Zoom on a different computer facing this one and have people use that if they want.
Yeah, I think anything you want to do at this point is fine. Molly, that would be great. I'm not sure how people will find you.
I know.
David, I don't know who's in charge of this account, but I'm just a quick Google search says that during this meeting, if whoever is in charge of our account could just upgrade in our billing, our plan, it can be upgraded in the middle of the meeting. So we don't have to, that's what this article appears to tell me.
Well, if
I don't know who said this.
Andy wants to try and find Gary Parsich and see if he can do that, that would be, or actually somebody else find Gary because we need Andy here. But yeah, that would be great. So Molly, if you would just come back in and let me know if that works, that'd be great.
Okay, working on it.
I was just able to let somebody in. I'm not sure why, but. Okay. So next is, are any other council reports or leadership council reports or any comments from board members about those reports? Okay. Next is communications. And this week we had several communications, and I all around the issue of, or the questions around school opening. And since they sent them to the board, what I'd like to do is share them. And I went through and excerpted things that were ideas or thoughts or suggestions that people were making. I didn't include a lot of the individual details, and there were suggestions around things that I know there's thinking on, or activities underway, and there may be activities underway around all of these things, and I'm sure we'll hear from Andy as much information as there is currently available in the next agenda item. So I'm going to put this document up, and what I've done is rather than read it to everyone, and I hope everyone can see it, I highlighted the sort of the kind of focuses of a lot of the comments and thoughts. And the first one is that that we all need to be thinking about students' emotional, social, and physical well-being needs at the top of the list of things as we go through the process of figuring out what's going to happen and how we're going to reopen, what that's going to look like. I also didn't put people's names in here. Another was an example of New Haven, Connecticut, where they developed their plan starting in April with lots of community involvement and input, including parent surveys. We have had some surveys to inform what we're doing, and I'm sure there'll be more information about that. Another comment was this person would like to see students and all faculty and staff, where possible, be given the option to choose remote-only schooling. Another one is the option for in-person learning should be prioritized for students who have learning disabilities and other academic struggles beyond those of their peers, students for whom there truly is no safer place than school. I'm not editorializing on these, I'm just sharing these as people's, trying not to editorialize on them, sharing them as information that was shared, communications that were shared with the board. This from a parent whose boys are 11 and 15, they miss school, they want to go back, but both have done well with distance learning, and in many ways they're healthier and happier with more sleep and less stress and social pressure. And now I see that Robin has raised her hand. Robin Morgan, if you want to unmute and if you have something you may have a comment on some of these since I know you're familiar with them.
Yes, actually, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is actually not about what you're talking about right now, but I just want to address the fact that people are locked out of the meeting.
We know that, Robin. We can't do anything about it.
Well, I think that we need to stop and think about that for a second, because I think if you can't unlock the meeting by calling Gary or whoever it is to immediately upgrade to allow 500 people into the meeting, then the only other option is to stop the meeting and postpone it at a time when there is a meeting with a larger capacity, because this isn't, as far as like our open meetings law, to have a meeting that is closed to people who want to come in. And I'm sure that was not the intention. It's just that never does this many people try to come to the meeting. So it wasn't anticipated, but I think that it's problematic to continue the meeting and with people that want to be hearing this and talking about it that cannot. That's
Yeah, I'm not going to stop the meeting. We can't make decisions. We can't move things, but there's no reason not to share this information with the 100 people that are here. This is not an official meeting if we're not compliant with open meeting law, but I'm not going to stop the meeting and schedule for another time. No, we're gonna move on. Really, we can talk about it all night and then we won't have a meeting, and I'm not going to stop it at this point. Molly, were you able to connect another option?
Almost, but if you could unshare your screen, I could send out the email. I
Okay.
just can't get to my email right now.
Okay, let me do that and then we'll go back to this document.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I can only do it out through, and the email I'm sending is only to WSEA. I don't know if there are I don't know how else to, I guess I could go into, where can I go to send it to everybody who might want to get it?
I don't know that there's a way to do that.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm rushing.
You could put it in the chat, Molly.
Oh,
So
okay, and then people can, I will do that. Yeah, thank you, that's a great
If
idea.
people can't get in, they can't see the chat though.
Well, Dave,
Yeah.
I'm happy to go to the other one, and so leave, I'm happy to give up my spot. If there's another, if I can jump onto the other meeting and still participate, I'm happy to leave my spot in this particular one open if this is the one that people are aware of.
Will you try it right now, or you can't try it, can you, without getting out of
All right, Molly, I'm gonna, have you sent the email?
Just did, yep.
Okay, great. Kelly, I would rather you wait until we see what the solution is, or if there is a solution.
Well, just let me know and I'm willing to do that.
Great, thank you.
That helps.
Right now it says we have 98 participants.
There is a recommendation if we could just take like a 10-minute recess and upgrade the account and send a message to the people in the waiting room. Might be
That's a really good idea. Thank you. Let me see if Andy or Frank or any other administrators, have you been able to get in touch with Gary to possibly change the account?
I'm texting with Gary right now.
And you found him?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Hang on.
Well, we can just sit here and wait instead of having a formal recess if people don't mind.
If anyone knows of teachers who were trying to get in and weren't able to, you could let them know to check their WSESD VT email for one from me that has the meeting link to the other one. I'm not seeing anybody yet.
Well, let's take Michelle's advice. I think that's a really great idea. Thank you, Michelle. And we will recess for until 6:40. We'll take a 6-minute recess and then see where we are. So we'll be back at 6:40.
Can a message be written to people in the waiting room? I don't know how to do that, but I'm just asking.
The host can. Paul, are you hearing back from Gary? Because
Just waiting for the text.
I have a message from him that basically we're operating on a free account. The district is operating on a free account. So in order to upgrade, someone would need, like David, maybe you would need to do it with your personal.
I'm on that account. I'm on the district account. I don't have a personal account.
Right, and I mean, I'm getting the same information from Gary. The problem is that we would have to, we'd have to close the meeting in order for another account to be used, right?
Yeah, that matches. Yeah.
The last school sing we had at Green Street this year, we had this same problem. We had over 100 people wanting to join and emailing and texting. So we did have to close that, and we bought, we upgraded the account and we rejoined a half an hour later, and we were able to get more people on. So, and that was for a school sing. And this, you know, I know that there's been messages going around to teachers who really want to be part of this and have their voice heard. So again, I'm just hoping that we can make this happen for the people who can't join.
Okay.
Molly, do you have anybody in your meeting that you have open?
David?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Bethany, and I unmuted myself. I've had my hand raised for quite a while through the system, and I haven't been called on. I'm just wondering if I can give you my thought as a community member.
Well, we're at right now we're going through communications, and there's a period at the end of the meeting for public comment on non-agenda items, but right now we're doing reports.
I understand that it's about this thing. What I want to say is that as a community member, not a teacher, I'm not going to get an email that gets sent to me to the teachers if there's a new meeting. And any community member who wants to join this meeting that was legally warned ahead of time cannot do so if you set up a new meeting. They also, many people have already tried to join and have given up at this point because it's been going for 35 minutes. So even if you get more people available, that does not replace the fact that people have tried to join and cancel and given up. Also, if somebody joins now, they already have missed out on what has been said. So if they have a public comment that they want to make, they don't have the ability to do that and add comments and information, because you have already given the information and they can't go back and rewatch it and join the meeting in the middle. This is absolutely unacceptable considering where we're at in this like cultural pandemic situation of reopening schools. For us not to be able to participate by watching this meeting should be ended and reformed and held at a different time. It is not okay to have an open meeting that the community cannot go to, and it needs to get ended. And if it doesn't, then I have a feeling that there's going to be a pretty big outcry from a lot of community members who feel like this was absolutely 100% not acceptable. for parents to not be able to be involved from the beginning of the meeting to the end of the meeting, which at this point is not possible to do.
So Paul, we've heard nothing, or there's no way that Gary could do anything about it?
As far as we can tell, we'd have to end the meeting in order to go to some other account that we can't, that either is already upgraded or that we can upgrade.
Okay, well, let me get the sense of the board on this. I would appreciate if you would all unmute for a minute, unless you got a dog barking in the background or something. And and I just want to just check with the board and see what your sense is here. We have just one more change on the screen here. We have a lot of business and a lot of information to go over. If we end the meeting now, we won't meet again until August 19th. So this information will not, any information that we have now will not be shared with whoever is here. If we continue the meeting, we are not legally meeting. We are not an open meeting any longer. We're just sharing information now. We won't be making any decisions. We'll still record it. It will still be available for people to watch to get that information, but lots of people won't be able to participate. We can't recreate the circumstances that we're in right now. We can't recreate the information that we have right now. We can repeat it later on, but it'll all be different because it'll be a month from now. So I'd like to hear from the board members, your thoughts on that. Thomas, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, so obviously people want to get into the meeting and not just get our information. They want to share their point of view, and that hasn't happened. So I don't see any way that we can really go forward with this meeting. It's very inconvenient, but I think we should reschedule a special meeting to replace this as soon as possible.
Right. I agree with Thomas.
That's my point of view.
Great.
As soon as possible.
Sean?
Not next month.
Yeah, I agree with what Michaela said. We don't want to fall outside of open meeting law. And I also agree with what Thomas said. It's too bad, but it's nobody's fault. And that's just the way it is, 100 limit. So we have more individuals and nobody could have anticipated that. So I would agree with Thomas. We should adjourn the meeting and reconvene at the earliest possible time.
How long do we have to wait? How long do we have to warn a meeting before we can have another one?
24 hours, one business day for sure.
Thank you.
Andy?
So, David, I'm obviously going to defer to the wishes of the board as this is a meeting of the board in public to conduct the business. I would suggest that we do have some news items we can share for those that are in attendance. Given that we do have a number of people present right now, obviously it's not actionable. We'd have to repeat the information again. But I do think that there's some information we could continue sharing given that we're just gathering right now. But again, I'll defer to the board's wishes on this, on the meeting.
Anne?
I agree with what everyone has been saying. It's an affront to democracy not to allow everyone to attend this meeting, and we need to schedule a special meeting. We cannot wait till August. If there is business not related to opening schools that we need to discuss, we can't take action, but we can certainly talk about it. But clearly the subject of school opening is what so very many people wish to talk about. They have that right and they should be heard, but we could maybe plow through some stuff that isn't related to that if we have anything.
Liz?
I agree with everybody else. I think we need to reschedule this meeting as soon as possible within the 24-hour deadline that you mentioned, David. It's really crucial that everybody be able to hear everything about where all the school reopening or online takes place. They need to be here. So I agree with everybody else about that. You know, I would say do it Monday. I mean,
Jackie?
I would agree with Liz and everybody that we should do the meeting as soon as possible. Monday works for me. I'd be happy to be there. But I also appreciate Andy saying that there is some information sharing that could still happen with the acceptance that it's all going to be repeated and that it's not actionable. I personally, being here in the meeting, am very anxious to find out any information that is currently available. So I would appreciate staying on and learning anything I can. Again, with the understanding that it will all be repeated and that it's not actionable.
Emily?
So I'd love to learn a little bit more too on non-actionable items, as Jackie just stated. And I just wanted to say that I'm also available on Monday. So if that date ends up working out and is the most convenient and soonest, then that's good for me too.
Let's see, Michelle or Tim? I haven't heard anybody else that on the board that I haven't heard from. Thomas,
No.
again?
I don't think we should be discussing anything. If everybody can't hear it, we should wait. I don't, even if we're going to repeat it, everyone should get to hear it at the same time.
Tim?
I completely agree with Thomas. Why repeat something? Would it be the same without as hearing it for the first time? I'm fine for rescheduling this on Monday.
Sean?
Yeah, I would make a motion that the WSESD board on July 15th terminate the meeting to be reconvened at the nearest available time.
Can I just,
Go ahead, Michelle.
do we have absolute confirmation that we can't upgrade our account mid-meeting? I didn't quite catch, maybe Paul said something, but somebody had to set up the account some way. The totally free program is like a 40-minute time block. So we must have something in place to be able to talk for so long.
Right. Can I, Dave?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, so the information I have is that the account being used currently for this meeting is a free education account, which gives us some privileges, but not other privileges. And in madly texting back and forth with Gary, we can't think of a way to sustain this meeting and and as I understand it, as soon as we, any other option, we haven't advertised the actual link to the meeting that we would then all go to, right?
Right.
Okay, well, so what I'm hearing, I think I'm hearing two things. So I may ask you all to go through it again to make sure that I've got this right. I'm hearing some of you say that obviously we aren't having a legal open meeting anymore. But you want to hear information. And then I'm hearing others say, and certainly the comments from the members of the public that are teachers, I'm not sure how many of them are teachers or not, but the people that weighed in is that if we're not, the people want to express their opinions and they want to share their concerns, and it's not just about hearing information. So I'm still unclear as to whether we should just end the meeting and try and reconvene, and we can't table it to a specific date because we don't have a date, but just end the meeting and try to reschedule it sometime in the near future. Or if we want to hear the rest of the communications and hear the administrative report, just so people will have the information. And so I'm hearing two very different perspectives, and I need to know. And Sean, I think your motion is out of order because we can't. I don't think we can do what you asked, but I understand what you mean, and we can do it in another way. But Anne, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm reading the chat here, and it's telling me there's a Zoom meeting scheduled at Academy on Monday at 5. So if we reschedule for Monday, we might want to go a little bit later.
Yeah, we have to work all that out. We're not going to reschedule now. I mean, we can't.
I'm just trying to make sure you can see what's in the chat here.
Yep. Thanks. Sean?
Well, I would just sort of like to point out, you know, that obviously there are people waiting to get in and they can't get in. And if I were to put myself in that place, I would know very well the frustration that they're feeling. And so that sort of cements it for me. That, you know, and I agree with you, David, that it's probably not right to make a motion because we're no longer a legal meeting. Thank you.
How about if we just vote? Who wants to just put the meeting off and reschedule it as soon as possible? And who wants to stay and hear the information, which I don't really think is right, but you know, just see how we split on those two things. Because obviously there's a lot of information and it's going to take a while to go through.
Well, people still want to talk, so I'm not going to take a straw poll until we've heard from everybody. But thanks, Liz. Andy?
I think at this point, David, in sake for transparency with everyone, we probably should just hold off any of the information sharing. I can share some good news that's unrelated to the reopening that may not really pertain to another meeting, but I would defer to John Sessions to share some great news about Academy School that I was going to put in the administrative report. We could share that information with people, but then it might just behoove us to reschedule all the other information about the admin reports till the next meeting as soon as we can schedule it.
Kelly?
So I was looking at something in the chat, and this is not, I mean, would I like to continue the meeting? Yes, I would. Do I understand that there are some people that can't get in and it's frustrating for them? And there's this, aside from the legality issue, there's the what is right and sort of just. So but I just wanted to speak more to what I see, a comment I see here in the chat, which says, I think the people who are here, who are not here to hear the information firsthand are at a disadvantage. And what I wanted to say is, or ask is, so we're currently being recorded right now. Is this going to be available on the website as a meeting so that people can then go and see, and then of course that may help them to formulate any opinions or questions or the discussion at the next meeting. But I just wanted to clarify that point there.
I'm not sure if there's this has never happened before, so I'm not sure there's clearly no precedent. My expectation is that BCTV would put it up and people would watch and see what happened, and they would know what happened and what we talked about, and they would hear this whole conversation and anything else that happened. It will have stopped being an official meeting when we went over 100 people. And I don't think, and we have not conducted any business since we found out about that.
Well,
so,
I just, my question went sort of
it'll be up tomorrow. It would be up, I think, tomorrow.
To help them to understand what we did talk about, and that doesn't prohibit us from then rediscussing it at the next meeting, but just so that they could actually have an understanding of what we actually talked about already. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whoever watches it, I mean, is going to see what we're doing right now. Tim?
Again, I just want to restate my position. I think that we should end the meeting and start anew.
Great, thanks, Tim. Deb?
Also support that idea of ending the meeting and rescheduling as soon as possible. And just a reminder that this is what our teachers and administrators, and these are the things that happen that we learn from. And so, clearly we need a different account, and clearly we need a different method of having these meetings, because moving forward, we certainly want large groups to be able to have access to this information, and there's technology to make that happen. So live and learn. And
thank you. Jackie?
I'm fine with just ending the meeting and rescheduling it.
Okay, thank you. Ann?
Mr. Chair, there being no conductable business before this board, I move that we adjourn to a later date.
I'm going to ask you to, well, do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Well, Emily, you had your hand up, and since you seconded that, I guess you don't have more that you want to talk about, because I was going to ask if we could hear from you before we did that. But okay, it's moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. Any comments, conversation?
Can we have a date for when this is going to be rescheduled for? Because
No, we can't. We have to look and see when people are available. We just found out there's a meeting on Monday that contradicts. So we have to, we can't schedule it until we have a chance to look into it.
Right, but I've been trying to go to all the meetings and I didn't see any meetings, at least board meetings or committee meetings that were scheduled for the 21st.
But we don't know what the superintendent's
Tuesday.
schedule might be or other board member schedules might be. There are other people that just convene meetings.
I'm concerned it's going to take a lot of back and forth.
It is.
And,
There's no question
there's
about
a
it.
lot of anxiety out there.
That's right, no question. Any other comments? Or Kelly?
Well, I just want to say in reference to the scheduling, I believe that there's a program, and maybe Emily even used it for the PPEC group to try and schedule it, to schedule one of those meetings, and where we all sort of input our availability, and it tries to pull it down to a date. So I just wanted to offer that as a suggestion.
Thank you. There is one other hand up, Mary Beth Porter. I would like to have you share your comment before we go off.
So my comment is if we are upgrading our Zoom package to accommodate people at a public forum, I would really strongly suggest to make sure that we get a very large capacity package. I think meetings of this nature concerning COVID and the reopening of school and the shutting down of school or remote learning is going to be likely to draw a really large crowd, and I don't know what capacities Zoom offers. So I would hate for the district to commit to a package and have a similar thing happen as more and more people become more interested in this topic.
Thank you. I think that's widely shared view. So any other comments on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of adjourning indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. We are adjourned.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks,
We'll
David.
try again in a few days.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.